Right, we're now going to join our first ever Apteco Live panel session. We have three great panelists for you. Felix Etienne, the country and loyalty manager from IKEA AG in Switzerland. Morgan Jamison, the head of retail marketing from Protyre in the UK. And David Azria, the chief marketing officer of Travian Games in Germany, in Munich. So let's just bring the three guys on stream. Great, thank you. Live connections, well done everybody getting connected. Over the next 20 minutes or so, we'll just have a discussion about how the COVID-19 pandemic affected you, what the impacts were on your organisations, and particularly on marketing. So we're looking at marketing impact and marketing technology. How did that go? So Felix, welcome. Thank you very much for joining us. And what did IKEA find in the lockdown? And how was your business affected? What did you do in the marketing sphere?
Hi and welcome everyone. I'm pleased to be here. So in the pandemic situation, I think if we look back and reflect back into March where everything started, we entered a very uncertain situation that ended up with a full lockdown of 2 months. And if I'm looking back, focusing on marketing first, the one thing we did is putting the priority always on safety first for our co-workers, but also for our customers, to make sure the shopping experience is always safe. When it comes to marketing, of course, it was a huge challenge, including also some opportunities for marketing. But first of all, what we did while entering a full lockdown was looking at our marketing plans, of our integrated media plans, and then also start to adjusting them. For example, we had out-of-home campaigns planned that if everyone stays at home, there's no reason to run out-of-home campaigns. Another example maybe to showcase a little bit is we were just entering into a new kind of launch campaign, which meant we had to revise also the content for such campaigns. And in this case, we had specific scenarios for a TV campaign where we were highlighting how a grandfather is playing with his grandchild. And if you remember, at least in Switzerland, the recommendation from the governance at that time was to protect older people and to avoid any contacts with kids. So we had actually to full stop this. Since we had the media bookings, of course, we decided to create together with our co-workers a new TVC just within 7 days, so super agile. We asked over the weekend our co-workers to submit some content about their living situation in the context of COVID, to show to the people in Switzerland how people actually live in this pandemic situation. How is their life at home during a lockdown? And this was then put together for a TVC that went out on air just, I think, within 10 days from production into the channel. The third point I would like to highlight is also about the communication. So the messages, the assets need to be revised. Some always on campaign needed to be stopped. Also our CRM campaigns, some of them were paused during that time. But also it was important to secure that we were supporting the organization in the entire communication about caring for our customers and supporting them also along their, let's say, shopping experience. With moving everything to online, of course, it was a bumpy road. We had to adjust a lot of processes. We had to adjust as an organization from the planning, from supply chain, sales, marketing, but also then the after-sales support. With increased lead times, of course, the volume on calls in the support center increases. So also taking care of this totality. A lot of alignments were needed during that pandemic to secure we can also support through communication in most appropriate way. I would like to briefly touch base.
I was just going to say, wow, so you've shown both agility and totality, so it was affecting the whole breadth of the business, but that's an amazing feat, creating a new commercial in 7 days, getting it on air in 10 days. What was the impact as you saw that move to the online and the contact centre? What happened? How did you fare?
So what happened, I think, just in regards to the business impact, I mean, what we see over the last fiscal year that ended in August, we were able to increase by 6% over the total year our share of sales in online. Of course, during peak times in the pandemic, we actually were selling up to 4 times the volume of any peak times before. And in the totality, from a global point of view, the increase in share of online sales increased by 45%. So I think it was really an accelerator for the transformation. And even after the lockdown, when we reopened, we saw a constant higher base in e-commerce. So I think that was quite some learnings for us. Also combined, of course, with very fast development of new services in order to adjust to the needs and changing situations during the pandemic.
Wow, yeah.
Agility, speed, and flexibility was key in these times.
So I guess working with your partner, key work, you needing to produce and push those services on is fantastic, and that online outcome is brilliant. You know, lifting the whole business through online activity. Let's just turn to Morgan, a very different business in a different country. You know, we were all told to stay at home, not drive our cars. How did that impact Protyre? What did you guys do? What did you see as the impact on your marketing team, Morgan?
Like with all physical retail, we had all the same sorts of challenges. So we had reduced trade. We did furlough a lot of our front-end staff, and there was furloughed within the marketing team as well. And we had to find a new way of working. So we obviously, being a head office function, we started working from home. But on top of all of that, we stayed open. We were an essential service, so we were having to navigate those challenges and stay open, which meant that we also needed to communicate our COVID protocols and get them to market a lot quicker than perhaps a lot of other retailers may have had to do. So, and if that wasn't enough, we also had the fact that the government wanted to extend all of the MOTs by 6 months. So there was a number of challenges we had to face. So in terms of some of the marketing comms objectives that we had, it was very much about letting people know that we were open, we were safe, we were COVID-19 secure. We also needed to communicate that we were an essential service, so there was a reason for us to be open. That was for our customers, but also there was an internal comms job to do as well, and that we were here to help. So the reason we were open was so we could keep key workers moving, we could keep the transport sector moving, and that we could support local communities in their need to pick up local groceries or pharmaceutical items and those sorts of things. So there was a number of key comms objectives, and in addition to that, we needed to communicate to customers that even though that the MOT had been extended, there were still wearable components that they needed to check, and it was ultimately a driver's responsibility to check that their car was roadworthy and that they were still subject to fines should that not be, and they were found on the road with it. So in terms of some of the things that we had to do, we did a lot of point of sale material. So we got all of our COVID protocol sort of notices out into centres to let customers know what we were doing, but also what we expected from them in terms of entering our premises. There was a lot of PPE that needed to be dispersed, and we worked with the ops team to help deliver that. So a slight sort of shift in some of our roles that we needed to do. Online, we updated all of our messaging. We put all the various different COVID protocols on there, so it became very much a comms channel. Likewise with our social media, our Google My Business pages and so forth. So a lot of energy was put into communicating that they were still safe to come into our stores, and there was still a good reason to if there was an essential need. So so that was a challenge in itself. But one of the biggest challenges that we had was, and you may remember from last year that we had a automated MOT sort of program through the Apteco system, but that all needed to be unpicked because we no longer could remind customers that they needed their MOT because it was being extended by 6 months. But what we did do is, in unpicking that, we developed a brand new style of campaign. So we combined our MOT reminders with our advisory reminders. So what we were doing was communicating with those individuals that were due to have an MOT that got extended, but were still sat on some advisories that hadn't been done from their previous MOT or from a previous visit that we'd seen them in. And we were letting them know that although their MOT had been extended, they still needed to look at some of the advisories, and there's some checks that they could perform at home. So we gave them some advice on checks that they could perform at home. We provided them links to advice articles in terms of how they could check. And we offered our services so they could phone us if they needed to quiz us on any information about their vehicle, about the check. And then we also followed that up with a telephone call just to check in, make sure that they were okay, make sure that they understood the advice, and if they needed our assistance, we could either do a collect and deliver service with their vehicle, or they could come in and see our COVID-19 secure protocols in action. And we did that with a number of other advisory programs as well, so the tyres, the brakes, and so forth. And then just coming out of lockdown, then we had the additional challenge of telling people to beat the rush, because everybody that was extended into October also had that challenge of the normal October MOT duty. So there was a number of challenges that we had to navigate.
Yeah, fantastic. And I remember you had an excellent NPS promoter score, and that sounds like you use that relationship with your customers to build new offers. Collect from home service to keep people safe is great. Let's turn to David Azria, CMO of Travian Games. Thank you very much for joining us. And a rather different challenge, I imagine. You're an online business offering online games. What did you guys see in the pandemic and in the lockdown? How did your marketing team change? What did you need to do different?
In fact, for us, the pandemic was first we were able to anticipate because if you recall last year, China started to lock down, and from this experience in China, we have noticed that the game downloads of mobile apps and surged literally, and the engagement even in our few games that were in China and in Asia, we had a start of a peak of traffic. So anticipating that the situation would happen in Europe, we started to change our plan slightly, and in fact with the pandemic for us, it was like really doing the same thing but more. We increased our budget in terms of advertisement. We were able to recall a lot of players, and on the marketing side, we gave ourselves a special mission that was for the players outside. Game is the experience, the entertainment for them to socialize, to have fun in this, let's say, not that, in fact, I would say in this difficult moment. So we really position ourselves like as the go-to place to relieve your stress, enjoy with your friends, your family, playing our games. And so all our marketing campaigns were tailored with that message for let's say the 2-3 months of the lockdown. And the game centers increased their capacity to welcome those players, and we definitely increased our activities to attract also new players, and the results were for us really outstanding.
So you were using the gaming platform as a way to help build community, to make family connections, to give families a social time. And it sounds like you saw an uplift. It wasn't a restriction on you, it was an opportunity.
For us, it was a massive uplift. I mean, we are talking about something like 20 to 30% increase in revenues. Wow. Just for this period, and round about 15 to 20% in terms of traffic. In just Europe, because mostly it has an impact. The lockdown was severe in Europe, and so it was obviously for us way more work to manage this period. Obviously, like Felix said, safety first. So all our employees, all the marketing team went to home office setting. We were more or less already prepared for that. Thanks to, again, our business and our industry. So we didn't have that much disruption in how we work. And we just had to really intensify and being very agile in our, especially demand to support the demand by creating new servers and promoting them for those.
Fantastic. The benefit of an online business, isn't it? You can scale up. So if I just come back to Felix, what do IKEA see going forward? What are your plans now? We obviously have a few vaccines on the horizon. What are you planning in the marketing arena at IKEA?
Yeah, I think for us, I mean, one outcome of the pandemic that turned out positive for IKEA, certainly, at least in some home furnishing grumpy countries like Switzerland, was that the needs for home furnishing increased, actually. So people stay more at home, they work more at home, so they have also more needs to make their home cozy, nicely. And this, of course, is for us an opportunity to increase for this increased demand, of course. And from a marketing perspective, we certainly will focus even more on making sure that we communicate always in the context of the living situation. And I think this came clearly out of this COVID situation, that home is a central part of of the many people's life.
That's great. You're seeing a positive out of the problems of the pandemic, the new situation that people are in, living at home, working at home. They're not going on holiday. They're not spending money on travel. Maybe they can spend money on improving their home. So Morgan, we've just heard two positives. Can you see positives coming in the Protyre world? I drove to the virtual venue this morning. The sign on the M40 still says essential travel only. Stay at home. Stop wearing out your tyres. What are you guys going to do?
Well, there's certainly yin and yang in terms of opportunities ahead and perhaps challenges ahead. If I start with some of the challenges, obviously people are driving less, so we specialise in sort of servicing wearable components on a vehicle. So naturally, we might see a shift in demand in terms of our services. But then there's also the fact that cars that stay stationary also have their problems in terms of batteries, in terms of diesel filters and stuff like that need actual motion to keep them in good operating order. Equally, you can look at Auto Trader as well. They published some stats that said that they've seen an increase in demand in used vehicles. I think it's something like 9% year-on-year increase in, especially in this sort of sub £10,000 sort of category. So more people are switching to vehicles rather than actually getting public transport, which may not be too green, but they obviously have a few concerns still about being in public spaces. And then there's online as well. So we've seen a massive shift in terms of consumer sort of and the way they're interacting with us. We had prior to lockdown, 23% of our tyre units were via an online channel, whether it be by our own website or whether it be through another third-party online platform, and that's shifted to 30% in October. That's about 2 to 3 years predicted growth in the space of about 6 months. So for us, we're now looking at how we can sort of explore a slightly different MarTech stack. So it's more integratable. So moving away from monolithic platforms such as our website and moving more towards a microservices approach where we can surface consistent data, consistent information through API layers to various different digital platforms, whether it be our website, a mobile app, or an Alexa device, and those sorts of things. So we're really sort of trying to accelerate that digital piece as well.
Yeah, interesting. And certainly one of the topics of research at Apteco is how we can use the API, which powers the whole of Apteco Orbit. You know, everything we do in Orbit is through the API. How can we use that as a point for integration with other MarTech components? How can we make it easy for people to bring our insight and analytics and modeling capability into other delivery channels? David, finally, we don't have very long left, but what did Travian Games plan? What are you going to be doing looking forward now? The world maybe will start creeping outdoors again. Are you going to try and keep us playing online? How are you going to deliver that?
So, I mean, looking forward, what first on the marketing team for the department, this event showed that we can work fully home office. So we have to think how we have to let's say collaborate. And so we are in this process of home office, work from office discussion, and to make sure that still there is a team connected and being able to collaborate. But clearly it showed that being home office, we can continue and still support our games. And this situation also, let's say, put a light on also a lot of insight how our game are designed, because we could notice that many players came back, enjoy the game during this period, the lockdown. So still, let's say, be connected to the brand, to the experience. But as soon as the lockdown was over, they went back to their normal life. And for us, it's a very strong learning on how we should tailor the game or our services to make those players coming back even without the lockdown. So that's the, let's say, very 2021 challenge for us, adapting and making our game more accessible to those lapsed players that really enjoyed and had this, let's say, revival of their past experience with our games. But now we have this goal to make them fully stay in our game.
Right, well, I have an offer for you, because Apteco buys IKEA furniture. We use IKEA standing desks to write the Apteco marketing suite. Our office is all IKEA. I use Protyre and the Warwick branch, get fantastic service, Morgan. They're great for my tyres, but I've never played a Travian game. So David, I will commit today publicly to go and give it a go. I'm not a gamer, but I'll go and find a game. Hopefully you got a game about flying planes. That would float me. That would get me going. So thank you all very much. I appreciate, we've imposed a little bit on your time for rehearsals and for this live session. Thank you for being brave enough to join our virtual venue live. We really appreciate it. And thanks for sharing your insights on the impact of COVID-19 on marketing. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me. Bye.
So that was our first ever panel session in a virtual world. Great connectivity from around Europe. Thank you everybody for joining that.